What if the life you're fighting for isn't yours? Are you building a castle for someone else, brick by invisible brick? Tonight, we open a forbidden door. What if your destiny was hijacked before you ever made a wish? Stop for a moment and look at your surroundings, your ambitions, your plans, the images plastered across your vision board. Do they feel truly yours? Or is there a faint echo of someone else's desire, humming just beneath the surface? The world has been swept by a storm of manifestation hype. Envision your reality. Command the universe. They say, gurus promise that if you think hard enough, work long enough, align your energies just right, the universe will kneel at your feet and place your dream life in your hands. But under the surface, beneath all the shiny promises, a far more disturbing truth may be hiding. Tonight, that truth will not be ignored. You've been told that you are the author of your own story, that your thoughts sculpt reality, that your will is supreme. But are you certain, absolutely certain, that the reality you are manifesting is truly yours? Or are you, without knowing, manifesting a blueprint written by someone else? A paradox is lurking in the shadows. Because reality, your reality, is not a sealed vault. It is porous. It is programmable. And, disturbingly, it is often co-authored. Consider this: each desire you nurture, every goal you chase, may be shaped not only by your conscious mind, but by the expectations of your family, the silent wishes of your friends, the viral aspirations swirling across your social media feed. What if you are caught in a network of hidden influences, trapped in an echo chamber so complete you can't tell where your wishes end and theirs begin? Tonight, we shatter the myth of manifestation as a solo act. In this video, the comforting narrative of create your reality gets ripped apart. Layer by layer, we'll expose the silent hands guiding your desires, bending your goals, shaping your very identity. You'll discover the shocking possibility that the dreams you are so desperate to manifest might not be yours at all. You'll question every step you've taken, every victory you've claimed, every heartbreak you've mourned. Because if reality is programmable, if your destiny can be hijacked, then the most haunting question arises: who is really coding your future? The journey will take us through 12 high-stakes revelations, each more disturbing than the last. We'll peer into the invisible mechanics of influence and manipulation that surround us every day. We'll dissect the phantom blueprints whispered into our minds before we ever knew what we wanted. We'll uncover how dreams can be infected, ambitions recycled, and victories rendered hollow by the invisible hands of others. Each chapter will expose a new glitch in the fabric of reality. Each will leave you with a paradox, an unresolved tension that cannot be shrugged off. You will not be comforted. You will not be lulled back into autopilot. You will be forced to confront the one question that underpins everything. If your reality is shaped by invisible forces, can you ever truly escape? Here is what you can expect. First, the phantom blueprint, how the core of your desires may have been forged in someone else's fire. Then, we expose the echo chamber effect, the mirror principle, and the shocking power of energetic entanglement. Next, we pull back the curtain on hollow victories, borrowed realities, silent saboteurs, and the agonizing cost of disentanglement. And finally, we challenge the very concept of free will, authenticity, and creation itself. Nothing is what it seems. The comforting narratives you have trusted, the ones that make you feel safe, special, and in control, will be torn down. You will see the glitches. You will feel the paradoxes. Are you ready to step beyond the edge, to question the foundation of your reality? Or will you retreat into the comfort of the dream, never knowing whose hands are at the controls? Tonight, there are no guarantees, no simple answers, only a journey through the shadows, toward a truth you may never unsee. We begin at the heart of the paradox, with a question that shatters the illusion of authorship. When did you stop choosing? If your deepest goals were never yours to begin with, who wrote them into your mind? What if your purpose is a forgery? Can you remember the moment your own blueprint was overwritten? The concept of free will is sacred in the modern world. Every day, people are told they are the architects of their lives, that every decision springs from their unique consciousness. Yet behind this ideal, there is a silence, an unacknowledged machinery grinding away in the darkness, etching invisible blueprints into your mind. Trace your memories back, your childhood ambitions, your teenage rebellions, your adult plans. How many of them were seeded by someone else? A parent's subtle suggestion, a teacher's approving glance, a friend's envious tone. You may have felt, for a moment, the urge to become something else. A brief flicker of resistance, quickly overwritten by the comfort of belonging. The pull of the crowd, the desire to be accepted, the need to fit a narrative. That is the moment the phantom blueprint began to take shape. Purpose, it turns out, is not always self-generated. It can be forged in the fire of someone else's unmet expectations, passed down like a hidden virus. Without realizing it, you inherit scripts you never wrote. Scripts designed to keep you playing a role that serves someone else's story. Every culture, every community, every family creates these blueprints. You are told what is valuable, what is possible, what is forbidden. Each should you internalize is another line in the code, another strand in the web. The most disturbing part? Most people never notice. The machinery of influence operates in silence, beneath the threshold of conscious awareness. You wake up each day and call your goals yours, never pausing to ask where they truly came from. Suppose a life's purpose can be forged, not discovered. Suppose your most passionate desires are nothing more than echoes, ghosts drifting through the collective consciousness, waiting for a vulnerable mind to inhabit. When did you last interrogate your goals? When did you last question the source of your ambition? Are you certain your blueprint is authentic? Or has it been overwritten so many times that the original is lost forever? The forgery is sophisticated. You are handed a set of desires, and you are told to make them your own. The pressure is subtle, relentless, and nearly invisible. It arrives in childhood and never leaves. It adapts, morphs, and evolves with every stage of your life. By the time you notice, you are already living by a code you never wrote. Purpose is a powerful drug. Provides certainty, belonging, a sense of progress. But what if the purpose you have been handed is counterfeit? What if your greatest achievements are only a testament to how well you played your assigned role? Pause and listen. Is the voice inside your head truly your own? Or is it a chorus of inherited expectations, stitched together into a Frankenstein's monster called identity? The world rewards those who fit the blueprint. Good grades, promotions, applause. But underneath the accolades, there is an unspoken price, the surrender of self-authorship. Every time you ignore your intuition, every time you sideline your curiosity, every time you choose the path of least resistance, you are reinforcing the phantom blueprint. It is a slow erasure, a death by 1,000 small compromises. One day, you look back and realize that the person in the mirror is unrecognizable. Not a stranger, but a collage of borrowed identities. And yet, there is no comfort in this realization. Only a chilling question. If your purpose is a forgery, who benefits from your obedience? Who profits when you stop choosing for yourself? The answer is as unsettling as the question. Every system, family, school, workplace, society benefits from compliant actors. You become a character in a story that was written generations before you arrived. Your individuality is celebrated only when it serves the collective blueprint. The machinery is efficient. Co-ops your fears, your hopes, your need for validation. You are kept busy chasing milestones, collecting badges, pursuing dreams that lead to a sense of emptiness when finally achieved. The feeling of being lost, of feeling out of place in your own life, is not a personal failure. It is the inevitable result of living by a phantom blueprint. There are those who sense the forgery. They are often called rebels, outcasts, dreamers. But even rebellion can become a blueprint once it is co-opted and commodified. The system adapts, swallows, repackages, and sells back the illusion of uniqueness. You are left in a hall of mirrors, never sure if you are seeing your reflection or someone else's projection. So, can you remember the moment your own blueprint was overwritten? Was it a conversation? A moment of doubt? A time when someone else's voice drowned out your own? The question lingers unsolved, unresolved. If your deepest goals were never yours to begin with, who wrote them into your mind? What if your purpose is a forgery? Can you remember the moment your own blueprint was overwritten? Next, we will descend into the machinery of influence even further. When do the echoes of others become the commands you obey? Are your ambitions truly original, or recycled broadcasts from everyone else's feed? If your thoughts are just echoes, can you ever hear your real voice? Or are you doomed to loop forever? Transition. You've seen how a phantom blueprint is written. But now ask yourself, in a world where every voice is amplified, can you trust any of them, including your own? Are your ambitions truly original, or recycled broadcasts from everyone else's feed? If your thoughts are just echoes, can you ever hear your real voice? Or are you doomed to loop forever? Begin with a blank page, the mind as a pristine canvas. But almost instantly, the first smudge appears. Someone else's voice, another person's expectation. Suddenly, that blankness becomes crowded with the overlapping, thunderous noise of a world always broadcasting. You walk through your day encased in invisible sound. Messages, opinions, desires, demands, they flow from every direction, slipping in through the cracks of your consciousness. At school, you learn what success is supposed to mean. At work, you pick up the cadence of ambition from colleagues desperate for validation. At home, you inherit the quiet ache of generations, the unspoken rules about what makes life worth living. And then the volume turns up. There is a device in your pocket, a portal to the most powerful echo chamber in human history. Social media, algorithms, viral videos, hashtags, influencer manifestos. Every second, you scroll through hundreds of curated realities, each one screaming for your attention, each one planting a tiny seed in the fertile soil of your subconscious. The images you see, the goals you should pursue, the milestones you are supposed to reach, all are designed to be contagious. Every day, you are bombarded by someone else's version of happiness. The perfect house, the perfect body, the perfect career. The list is infinite, and it loops on repeat. Are you sure the ambitions you chase were ever truly your own? The echo chamber is both seductive and ruthless. It promises belonging and significance, but the price is invisibility, your authentic self gradually fading beneath layer after layer of borrowed noise. The more you listen, the less you hear your original voice. The more you emulate, the less you innovate. And yet, the machinery of the echo chamber is invisible. It operates in whispers, in microsignals, in the careful calibration of trends and narratives. No one stands over you with a bullhorn demanding that you copy, but you copy anyway. You find yourself wanting things you never considered before, chasing goals that once felt foreign, measuring your worth by metrics you never chose. There is a reason for this. The brain is designed to mirror. Neuroscientists speak of mirror neurons, specialized cells that fire not only when you act, but when you observe someone else acting. You see someone else receive applause, you feel a flicker of their triumph. You witness the celebration of a certain lifestyle, a particular achievement, and you begin to crave that celebration for yourself. It's biological, it's chemical, and it's deeply susceptible to manipulation. Now, consider the algorithm, an unfeeling, all-seeing architect of the echo chamber. Every like, every comment, every pause as you scroll is noted, cataloged, and used to create a perfectly tailored loop. You are shown more of what you already believe, more of what already tempts you, more of what already shapes you. The echo chamber rewards conformity and punishes deviation. Your world shrinks to a hall of mirrors, every reflection reinforcing what you're already hearing from the outside. There is a paradox here. You crave uniqueness, but you are offered only replicas. You chase authenticity, but you are rewarded for sameness. Over time, the loop tightens. Your ambitions become indistinguishable from the collective noise. Your dreams, once vivid and strange, become generic and predictable. Do you notice it happening? Do you feel the moment when your thoughts begin to repeat, to circle back, to lose their edge? You wake up each day haunted by a sense of déjà vu, as if you're living a script written not by your own hand, but by an unseen chorus. Try to break the loop, try to express a new idea, a new desire, and watch the system react. Sometimes with silence, sometimes with ridicule, sometimes with an overwhelming pressure to get back in line. The echo chamber is relentless. It is not satisfied with half measures. But here's the most disturbing part. After a while, you start to enjoy the repetition. Feels safe. Feels familiar. It feels like home. So you keep scrolling. You keep liking. You keep chasing. And every ambition, every goal, every new dream begins to blur into a single, endless broadcast. Be like everyone else. Want what everyone else wants. Loop forever. You may call it progress. You may call it personal development. But underneath, the machinery grinds on, converting your authentic desires into mass-produced ambitions. The original dream, your dream, is drowned out, replaced by a chorus so loud, so persistent, you forget there was ever a song of your own to sing. And so the loop continues. You mimic, you echo, you repeat. Even rebellion is repackaged, sold back to you as a trend, an aesthetic, a box to check on the infinite scroll of someone else's ambitions. Are you listening now? Can you hear the static, the glitch in the feed? Every time you feel a jolt of inspiration, ask, whose voice is it? Every time you set a new goal, ask, whose applause are you hoping to receive? Every time you visualize your ideal life, ask, whose blueprint are you referencing? The world rewards those who loop, but the cost is the slow, grinding erosion of originality. Think about the last time you felt true clarity, true silence, true ownership of your thoughts. Was it before the notifications, before the comparisons, before the avalanche of content? Or have you forgotten that place entirely? Now listen for the next glitch. In a world where every voice is amplified, can you trust any of them, including your own? Every echo shapes you. Every reflection carves another line into the phantom blueprint. Perhaps you still believe that you can escape. Perhaps you think your mind is an island, immune to the signals streaming in from every direction. But the evidence suggests otherwise. The machinery has grown more sophisticated. No longer just parents and teachers, but millions of voices, each one calibrated to manipulate, to persuade, to entice. You are surrounded not by individuals but by a collective mind, a consciousness so vast and interconnected that personal thought becomes almost impossible. This is not paranoia. This is architecture. This is design. You are meant to loop. You are meant to echo. You are meant to repeat. And in this endless repetition, the original self erodes. If you could see the network, the threads connecting every desire, every ambition, every fleeting urge, you would see not a web, but a prison, a cage made of noise, a trap made of comfort. Can you break the loop? Or are you doomed to echo forever, endlessly manifesting realities that were never yours, chasing dreams that will never bring satisfaction? There is a reason why so many people feel empty after achieving the goals that were supposed to complete them. There is a reason why fulfillment slips further away with every new milestone. It is the reason you are here now, listening, wondering, searching for the one voice that is not an echo, the one desire that is not recycled. But to find it, you must first see the loop for what it is. A machine that feeds on your attention, your energy, your hopes. A machine that will never stop broadcasting. Do you see the glitch yet? Do you hear the silence underneath the noise? Or is the loop too strong? Is your original voice lost forever, replaced by a chorus you never chose? In this endless repetition, the mind finds comfort, but at the price of freedom. You were not meant to loop forever. You were not meant to echo, to mimic, to conform. But the machinery does not care. The machinery only wants you to play your part, to sing the song, to repeat the script. Are you awake yet? Or are you still scrolling, still liking, still chasing the next borrowed ambition? Only you can decide. But even the decision is haunted by the echoes of everyone who came before you. Now you have seen how a phantom blueprint is written and how easily it can become an endless loop of borrowed ambitions. Next, we will confront the most disturbing question yet. If you only see yourself through others, who are you really becoming? What happens when your identity is built on someone else's face? If you only see yourself through others, who are you really becoming? What happens when your identity is built on someone else's face? Transition. After realizing your goals may be echoes, let's confront the next horror. What if you are nothing but a mirror reflecting, never creating? Are you even real, or just a perfect imitation? If you only see yourself through others, who are you really becoming? What happens when your identity is built on someone else's face? Stand in front of a mirror and stare at your own eyes. Now look past the surface, past the lines, the color, the fleeting emotion. Ask, without flinching, who is staring back? Is that an original or a perfect reflection of someone else's light? Human identity is not born in isolation. From the first breath, the newborn seeks a face, a voice, a gaze to return their own. The first lessons are learned through imitation, smiling because a parent smiles, crying because it brings comfort, mirroring gestures and expressions until the self forms a language built entirely from borrowed symbols. But the mirror does not fade as you grow. Instead, it multiplies. Friends, teachers, lovers, rivals, all become living reflections, showing you not only how to behave, but what to desire, what to fear, what to pursue. You shape yourself by what you see in their eyes, their reactions, their judgments. Soon, the line between your true self and their projection begins to blur. You pick up on subtle cues: approval, disappointment, envy, and adjust accordingly. You chase applause not for its sound, but for the assurance that you exist, that you are seen, that you matter. But in chasing that recognition, how much of yourself have you edited, rewritten, or erased? The mirror principle is as ruthless as it is invisible. At every crossroads, you check for a reflection. You hesitate, you adjust, you ask yourself, how will this look? What will they think? You dress for the gaze, you speak for the response, you work for the praise, and with every calculated gesture, your image drifts further from the original template until only the mirror remains. Think of how quickly an opinion spreads within a group. One person shifts and suddenly the others mirror that shift. An idea becomes contagious, not through logic, but through imitation. You laugh because others laugh. You value what others value. You even fear what others fear, sometimes before you understand why. How much of you is truly yours? Look again at your own reflection. Are you proud of what you see, or merely relieved that it looks right to someone else? Every social media post, every filtered selfie, every carefully constructed online persona is a new layer of the mirror, a composite built from fragments of everyone else's approval. You adjust your posture, your vocabulary, your interests, sometimes so subtly that you forget there was ever a real you beneath the layers. The original becomes less distinct, more ghostly, a faded echo of pure possibility. But the mirror principle is not just about blending in. It is about survival. Humans are social creatures. Isolation threatens the nervous system, disrupts the sense of reality itself. And so, to belong, you reflect, you adapt, you mimic until you cannot tell if the mask has fused with your skin. Consider the influence of admiration. You idolize someone, a celebrity, a mentor, a friend, and unconsciously begin to adopt their traits, their opinions, their mannerisms. You find yourself thinking as they would think, wanting what they want, fearing what they fear. Is this inspiration, or is it the theft of identity? Is it evolution, or is it erasure? The most dangerous aspect of the mirror is its stealth. You do not realize when the copying begins, nor do you recognize when it is complete. You simply awaken one day and realize you no longer know what you truly want. Your desires have become reflections, your ambitions replications. Are you living a life of your own, or performing a role written by the audience? Is your sense of self an authentic creation, or a mosaic of other people's faces, their values, their dreams, their wounds? Now listen for the glitch. In a world where everyone is a mirror, reflecting everyone else, who, if anyone, is real? Authenticity becomes a paradox. The more you try to find yourself, the more you imitate others who appear to have found themselves. The more you reach for originality, the more you are seduced by those who define the boundaries of originality. But the most haunting possibility, what if, beneath all the mirrors, there is nothing left? What if the search for authenticity leads only to emptiness, to an endless regress of reflections, each one waiting for someone else to make the first move? You seek validation, but the price is self-erasure. You seek belonging, but the price is invisibility. You seek connection, but the price is a life lived entirely for the approval of others. Every like is a nod from the mirror. Every follow is a new pane of glass added to the infinite corridor of reflections. Are you looking at yourself, or are you looking at someone else's gaze, refracted endlessly? Identity, once thought to be a solid, enduring core, reveals itself as liquid, mutable, designed by the needs of others. Your personality shifts in every room, in every conversation, in every interaction. But does anything remain unchanged? Or are you simply the sum total of all the eyes that have ever looked your way? Pause and notice how uncomfortable this question feels. To face the mirror is to risk seeing nothing at all. The paradox grows more acute. If you abandon the mirror, do you risk losing yourself entirely? If you rely on it, do you ever become anything more than a reflection? The urge to belong is so powerful that you may surrender your very essence to keep from being alone. The world rewards the best mirrors, those who can reflect exactly what is needed, when it is needed as it is needed. But the reward is hollow, the applause fleeting. You win approval, but you lose the map back to your original self. Ask yourself brutally, who are you without anyone else's gaze upon you? What remains when no one is watching? If you flinch at the thought, you are not alone. Most people spend their lives running from the emptiness, the void that appears when the mirrors are stripped away. But to be real is to risk being unseen, unheard, unloved. To be a mirror is to guarantee attention, even if the price is invisibility. So, whose reflection are you chasing? What would it take to break the mirrors, to step out of the infinite corridor, to stand in the light of your own authenticity, even if it means standing alone? The world does not encourage such bravery. The machinery is built to keep you reflecting, to keep you looping, to keep you echoing. And so the question sharpens, becomes a blade. If you only see yourself through others, who are you really becoming? Perhaps the most disturbing realization is this. You can live your entire life as a flawless reflection, never touching the original, never knowing the self beneath the surface. You can become a legend in the eyes of others, a hero, an icon, yet remain a ghost to yourself. And if your identity is built on someone else's face, what happens when they turn away? What happens when their gaze shifts, their approval fades, their expectations change? Do you vanish, or do you finally catch a glimpse of what was lost? After realizing your goals may be echoes, let's confront the next horror. What if you are nothing but a mirror reflecting, never creating? Are you even real, or just a perfect imitation? Now, prepare to be unsettled further. If every wish you make gets tangled with someone else's, who cashes in your dreams? Could you be sacrificing your joy to charge someone else's reality? If every wish you make gets tangled with someone else's, who cashes in your dreams? Could you be sacrificing your joy to charge someone else's reality? Transition. Having seen the power of mimicry, it's time to face an even darker question. Can your energy be hijacked, used as fuel for a reality you never wanted? If every wish you make gets tangled with someone else's, who cashes in your dreams? Could you be sacrificing your joy to charge someone else's reality? Pause for a moment and sense the energy that flows through you. The ambition, the hope, the burning will to make things happen. That same current pulses through everyone you know, everyone you admire, everyone you envy. But do you ever stop to consider where your energy ends and another's begins? In a world obsessed with manifesting, the borders of energy are never quite clear. The message is simple. Focus, desire, intend, and watch as reality shifts in your favor. But there is a secret, a hidden flaw in the system that no one wants to acknowledge. Manifestations bleed together, intentions cross over, and the invisible web that links all people grows more tangled with every wish. You set an intention, success, love, happiness, but so does everyone else. Billions of people, billions of wishes, all competing, all interacting, all woven into the same electric field of reality. Is it possible that your energy could be hijacked, rerouted, or even harvested by forces outside your awareness? Every day you encounter other people's needs, other people's pain, other people's relentless hunger for what you're also trying to create. Sometimes you feel it directly, an inexplicable drain after certain conversations, a heaviness after scrolling through social media, a sense of depletion that has no obvious cause. What if that feeling isn't just emotional? What if it is energetic, an actual siphoning, a theft so subtle you mistake it for your own fatigue? Think of the friend whose problems always become your problems, whose struggles seem to infect your own life. Think of the way a crowd's mood can lift you up or pull you down, regardless of your personal circumstances. Think of the communities, workplaces, families, and relationships where your energy is never entirely yours. This is not mere empathy. This is entanglement. A web so tight that your victories, your joys, your creative bursts can spark benefits not just for you, but for everyone caught in your orbit. But the darker side is this: when your intentions become entangled with the intentions of others, your efforts can be hijacked. You wish for abundance. Someone else wishes for scarcity. You hope for love. Someone else clings to jealousy. You manifest health. Someone else dwells in illness. The energies collide, merge, redirect. Your manifestation may arrive twisted, diluted, or strangely delayed, not because you failed, but because your signal was crosswired. There are those who know how to plug into this network, consciously or not, and draw power from the ambitions of others. They are the dream vampires, the wish thieves, the subtle harvesters of hope. You might recognize them by the emptiness they leave behind, the sensation that you gave everything and received nothing in return. And then there are the energy contracts. Unspoken agreements you enter, often without realizing it. You take responsibility for another person's happiness. You feel guilty for succeeding when others struggle. You unconsciously sacrifice your own joy to make someone else feel better about their failures. These are not just emotional burdens. They are energetic chains, silently siphoning your power away from your own dreams. Pause and examine your life. How many dreams have you set aside to keep the peace? How many opportunities have you let pass, worried about outshining someone else? How often do you suppress your excitement, your pride, your desire to avoid triggering envy or resentment? It's not just politeness, it's entanglement. Your energy is not your own. On a grander scale, collective manifesting amplifies the effect. When millions are told to focus on wealth, on success, on happiness, the field becomes saturated with competing frequencies. Some rise to the top, not always by merit, but by force of attention, by social status, by unconscious alliances within the field. Others are drowned out, their intentions lost in the white noise of mass desire. The most chilling aspect. Sometimes you win and it feels like a loss. You achieve what you've worked for, only to discover that the joy has been drained away, replaced by exhaustion, emptiness, or even guilt. You sense that the fruits of your labor are feeding someone else's celebration, someone else's sense of victory. There are moments when your greatest efforts seem to benefit everyone but you. Your project inspires a colleague who takes all the credit. Your breakthrough lifts a team while you are left behind. Your kindness revitalizes a family, while your own energy dwindles. These are not accidents. They are symptoms of energetic cross-wiring. The question deepens. Are you living for yourself? Or are you an unwitting battery for someone else's reality? If you pay attention, you will sense the patterns. Certain people, certain groups, certain circumstances always leave you feeling less than whole, less than sovereign. You try to set boundaries, but they never seem to hold. Your intentions feel diluted, your victories hollow, your manifestations oddly out of sync. You begin to suspect a hidden exchange, an economy of energy where you are always the debtor, never the creditor. And yet, there is no escape from the field. You are plugged in, wired into the collective, for better or worse. You can try to retreat, to isolate, to guard your intentions, but the current still hums, still pulses, still entangles. Sometimes the only evidence is a feeling, the fatigue that comes from doing everything right yet making no progress. The sense of being invisible even while performing on center stage. The creeping doubt that your dreams are never truly safe, never fully your own. But this is not only about loss. Entanglement means your positive shifts can uplift others. 2. You become a beacon, a catalyst, a node in the network. But even here, the cost is real. You give, you lift, you carry, but do you ever receive? Or does your energy fuel realities you would never have chosen? Every intention, every manifestation, every wish is both personal and collective. You are both sender and receiver, creator and participant, giver and taker. The boundaries are never clear, never fixed. The machinery of entanglement is ancient. Tribes, families, communities have always known that the fate of one affects the fate of all. But in a hyper-connected age, the entanglement is more intense, more chaotic, more prone to theft and misdirection. Is it possible to untangle yourself? To reclaim your energy? To manifest without cross-wiring, without leaking power into the ambitions of others? The answers are hidden, buried beneath layers of obligation, guilt, fear, and the universal human need to belong. Sometimes you feel the temptation to stop wishing altogether, to withdraw your hopes, your dreams, your creative spark, just to keep from feeding the machine. But even silence is an offering. Even retreat is a signal. There is no neutral in the network. You are always transmitting, always receiving, always entangled. You begin to question every success, every failure, every coincidence that shapes your path. Was this mine, or was it borrowed? Did I want this, or was I manifesting on behalf of someone else? You see others thrive and wonder, am I the engine behind their good fortune? You see yourself falter and wonder, whose burdens am I carrying without consent? No amount of positive thinking can sever the ties if the entanglement is not seen, not named, not understood. So, who cashes in your dreams? How much of your joy is spent powering a reality you never agreed to? You have seen the power of mimicry. You have witnessed the machinery of reflection. But now you face the darkest question of all. Can your energy be hijacked, used as fuel for a reality you never wanted? The answer is not soothing. The answer is not easy. But the next step is inevitable. What happens when you manifest a goal that isn't truly yours? How does it feel to climb the mountain, only to realize it belongs to someone else? Now, prepare to face the emptiness at the summit. What if every triumph feels empty because it was never meant for you? How many successes are really just side effects of someone else's story? What if every triumph feels empty because it was never meant for you? How many successes are really just side effects of someone else's story? Transition. You've felt the chill of energetic theft. But what if your proudest moments are actually your deepest betrayals to yourself? What if every triumph feels empty because it was never meant for you? How many successes are really just side effects of someone else's story? There is a peculiar silence that follows certain achievements, a numbness masquerading as satisfaction. You celebrate. You share the news. You gather the applause that everyone told you to expect, the rewards that should have completed you. But as the confetti settles, an emptiness lingers, heavier than failure, colder than regret. Hollow victories are the ghosts that haunt the most successful people. On paper, everything is perfect. The milestones are checked, the trophies polished, the status secure. Yet inside, there is a gnawing suspicion. This isn't mine. This was never my summit to climb. You remember the effort, the sacrifices, the late nights, the relentless pursuit of an image that, upon closer inspection, was borrowed, copied, inherited from 1,000 subtle sources. Your parents' pride, your peers' envy, your culture's narrative of what winning should look like. You followed the script. You reached the ending. And now you realize it's someone else's story. This is the ripple effect. One decision, made years ago, becomes a stone cast into the waters of your life. The waves travel outward, intersecting with the waves of others. You find yourself swept up, not by your own momentum, but by a current set in motion long before you arrived. You win, but the victory tastes of ash. You finish first, but the finish line keeps moving, always out of reach, always reset by new expectations. Sometimes the world notices. They call it imposter syndrome, as if it is a flaw to be corrected, a symptom to be managed. But what if it's not an illusion? What if you really are an imposter, performing in a masquerade where the true mask is the one you wear for yourself? Every hollow victory is a signal, a glitch in the story you were handed. You were told that achievement brings fulfillment. But fulfillment cannot be faked, cannot be borrowed, cannot be bought with someone else's currency. Pause and trace back through your timeline. The promotions, the relationships, the accolades, did they truly arise from your inner compass, or were they the byproducts of someone else's design? If your victories feel empty, perhaps it's because they belong to another narrative. Parents' hope, a mentor's expectation, a society's demand for conformity. You may try to fill the emptiness with more striving, more collecting, more performing. But the hollow grows, echoing with each new success that brings less satisfaction than the last. This is the cost of living out someone else's manifestation. Your energy, your effort, your talent, all spent building monuments to dreams you never truly wanted. And the tragedy deepens. The more successful you become, the further you drift from your own axis. You become fluent in a language that is not your own, an expert in a game that does not excite your spirit. The applause grows louder, but the silence inside you becomes deafening. The ripple effect is relentless. Your choices influence others, just as theirs shape you. Each borrowed dream multiplies, sending out new waves of expectation, obligation, and hidden resentment. Families are built on these ripples. Generations of unfulfilled ambitions, passed down like heirlooms, disguised as love, as tradition, as destiny. You may carry burdens that were never yours to carry, chasing redemption for wounds you never received. The emptiness that follows a hollow victory is not simply disappointment. It is the quiet realization that you have become a ghost in your own life. When your proudest moments ring hollow, you are forced to ask, who is celebrating? Who benefits? Who is truly fulfilled? Sometimes the answer is no one. The ripple loses its power, the wave dissipates, and all that remains is the echo of unclaimed satisfaction. Other times, the victory energizes someone else's reality. Your success becomes their proof, their validation, their reason to keep pushing the same narrative. This is the true theft, not just of energy, but of destiny. A cycle where no one is ever truly satisfied, because no one is living in alignment with their own core. Hollow victories are often disguised as progress. You are told to keep moving, to stay busy, to achieve at any cost. But beneath the momentum is a paralysis, a refusal to stop and ask, is this my dream, or am I still playing by borrowed rules? You witness others win hollow victories, too. Friends who marry for appearances, colleagues who climb ladders that lead nowhere, influencers who chase numbers instead of meaning. Every ripple amplifies the silence. Every hollow win becomes a warning. The machinery that produces these outcomes is ancient and impersonal. It rewards conformity, punishes deviation, and keeps the cycle in motion. Breaking free requires more than courage. It demands a reckoning with the ripple itself. Ask yourself, if every triumph feels empty, who wrote the script? If every goal reached leaves you hollow, whose applause are you chasing? The paradox is suffocating. You are told to pursue fulfillment, yet the very path you are handed leads away from your source. You are told to strive for excellence, yet the target is always moving, always someone else's definition of success. It is tempting to numb the discomfort, to rationalize the emptiness, to keep running in the hope that the next win will finally bring peace. But peace is not found in hollow victories. It is found in alignment, a state that cannot exist while you are trapped in the ripple of someone else's ambition. To feel alive, you must reclaim the power to choose, to create, to define success on your own terms. But the system resists. Every attempt to step off the treadmill is met with resistance, from within and without. You fear disappointing others, you fear being seen as ungrateful, you fear losing status, connection, and certainty. Yet to remain is to forfeit your own story, to live in a loop where every win is just another echo, every celebration another mask. The hollow victory is not a failure of effort. It is the inevitable result of borrowed dreams. Recognize the signs, a sense of emptiness after achievement, a reluctance to celebrate, a persistent hunger for meaning, even in the midst of success. These are not signs of weakness. They are signals, warning lights on the dashboard of your soul. To honor them is to begin the process of reclamation. You've felt the chill of energetic theft. But what if your proudest moments are actually your deepest betrayals to yourself? Next, prepare to confront an even more jarring question. Is your life a sublet, furnished with dreams that aren't yours? Are you unknowingly paying the price for someone else's vision? Is your life a sublet, furnished with dreams that aren't yours? Are you unknowingly paying the price for someone else's vision? Transition. Now that you see the emptiness of hollow victories, ask, have you been living on borrowed time in a world built for someone else's benefit? Is your life a sublet, furnished with dreams that aren't yours? Are you unknowingly paying the price for someone else's vision? Consider the space you inhabit, not just the physical walls and floors, but the structure of your days, the architecture of your ambitions. Does this space feel truly yours, or does it echo with the footsteps of those who walked it before you, their dreams and disappointments lingering in the air like dust that refuses to settle? Every day, you inhabit a reality shaped by invisible architects. You live in neighborhoods planned by city designers who never met you. You pursue careers created by generations of labor, profit, and silent compromise. You adopt rituals and routines passed down like heirlooms, rarely pausing to ask whether any of this was meant for you, or whether you are merely the latest tenant in a very old story. Borrowed realities are the unseen contracts we sign. We agree to chase certain dreams, to value certain outcomes, to endure certain hardships, not because we chose them, but because they are the cost of admission to a world someone else already claimed. You become a tenant, paying rent not in cash, but in attention, energy, and belief. Look around at the people you know. How many are living lives they never consciously chose? How many are fulfilling roles written by others, dreams handed down or handed over, trapped in houses built by expectation and obligation? This is not just about family or culture. It is systemic. The education system rewards those who conform to inherited metrics of intelligence. Workplaces promote those who replicate existing models of leadership. Communities offer belonging to those who mirror dominant values. You are told to make yourself at home, but the furniture never quite fits. You sleep in a bed designed for another's rest. You hang your hopes on walls already crowded with the portraits of strangers. Your ambitions begin to feel claustrophobic, as if the ceilings are too low and the doors open onto the wrong streets. You wonder why your joy feels fleeting, your satisfaction always one room away, locked behind a door you don't have the key for. The price you pay is subtle but real. You spend years earning credentials you don't value, performing rituals that bring no meaning, sacrificing parts of yourself for rewards that never truly satisfy. Each compromise is another month's rent, another reminder that you are not the owner of your own life. In borrowed realities, even your triumphs feel provisional. The celebrations are brief, the applause distant, the fulfillment borrowed and quickly repossessed. You succeed on someone else's terms, in a space someone else defined, for a victory that rarely feels permanent. The discomfort grows louder with time. You sense that you are not just visiting, but occupying a life that could be reclaimed at any moment, by circumstance, by disillusionment, by the silent demands of those whose dreams you are living out. Some people awaken to this fact in crisis. Career setback, a failed relationship, a sudden emptiness after years of achievement. You realize you have invested everything in a home that was never meant to be yours. Others sense it quietly, a gnawing unease that grows with every borrowed goal and every empty celebration. You try to redecorate, to add your own touches, but the foundation resists. You may even rebel, but the rebellion itself is anticipated, absorbed, and made part of the blueprint you inherited. So whose dream are you living? Whose reality do you maintain, often at your own expense? Pause and listen to the unspoken contracts you've signed. The agreements to follow certain paths, avoid certain risks, protect certain legacies. Did you ever choose these, or were they handed to you along with the keys to your borrowed reality? Consider the debt you owe to other people's visions. The debt of gratitude, of loyalty, of tradition, of making them proud. How much of your life is spent repaying what was never your debt to settle? It is easy to dismiss this as the cost of belonging. But what if the price is too high? What if the rent for living in someone else's dream is your own unlived life? Borrowed realities demand constant maintenance. You keep up appearances, meet expectations, perform routines. You pay the rent in self-sacrifice and receive, in exchange, the right to remain but never to own. Even creativity becomes suspect. Is this inspiration, or merely an adaptation of an earlier model? Are you inventing, or are you repackaging the hopes of others with a fresh coat of paint? When you try to step outside, to claim space of your own, the system responds. You are reminded of your obligations, your roots, your responsibilities. You are asked to justify, to explain, to prove that your dream is real enough to deserve a home. Some never leave the borrowed space. They grow comfortable in someone else's reality, forgetting that there was ever anything else to desire. Others become restless, haunted by the echo of their true ambitions, unsettled by the growing awareness that every achievement is conditional, every joy subject to eviction. You pay the rent month after month, year after year. You make improvements, but the deed is never in your name. Occasionally, you encounter someone who has managed to break free. They are rare, often misunderstood, sometimes admired and sometimes resented. They refuse to pay rent in borrowed realities, building their own spaces from scratch, risking loneliness for authenticity. But even they are not immune to the gravity of collective dreams. The pressure to conform, to return, to justify never fully disappears. Are you ready to question every room you occupy, every script you perform, every goal you chase? Are you willing to face the uncertainty of living without a lease, without a blueprint, without inherited guarantees? The fear of eviction keeps most people locked inside borrowed realities. The fear of disappointment, of rejection, of abandonment. But the true danger is not in losing the borrowed space, but in never discovering your own. You are told that security comes from conformity, that fulfillment can be found in tradition. But if the price is your sovereignty, your originality, your deepest joy, how secure are you really? Now that you see the emptiness of hollow victories, ask, have you been living on borrowed time in a world built for someone else's benefit? Are you ready to stop paying rent in someone else's dream? Are you willing to risk the unknown for the chance to claim a space of your own? The cost of borrowed realities is cumulative. Every year spent in someone else's story is a year stolen from your own. Every compromise, every conformity, Every suppressed desire is another payment on a lease that never ends. If you want to break free, you must be willing to walk away from the comfort of the familiar, to risk being misunderstood, to build without guarantees. You cannot own your life until you stop renting your reality. You cannot find fulfillment in someone else's vision, no matter how comfortable the furniture, no matter how decorated the rooms. The time to question, to challenge, to claim is now. There are no refunds on borrowed time, no compensation for an unlived life. Now that you have seen the price you pay for living in borrowed realities, ask yourself, who truly benefits from your tenancy? Whose vision are you maintaining at the expense of your own? The answer is rarely simple, but the question cannot be avoided. Now, as you begin to see the true cost of paying rent in someone else's dream, prepare to face a more sinister twist. What if your struggles are exactly what someone else needs to thrive? Could your failures be feeding a hidden winner? What if your struggles are exactly what someone else needs to thrive? Could your failures be feeding a hidden winner? Transition. Having recognized the cost of borrowed realities, you must now question, in the network of influence, are your losses secretly engineered, profitable to an unseen other? What if your struggles are exactly what someone else needs to thrive? Could your failures be feeding a hidden winner? Consider the intricate web of connection that binds every life to countless others. You grow, you strive, you falter, not in a vacuum, but in a dynamic ecosystem where every action, every setback, every heartbreak creates ripple effects far beyond your line of sight. There is a story we are taught from childhood, that our defeats are private, that our failures matter only to us, that disappointment is an internal burden. But beneath this story is another, darker truth. Your misfortune may be the currency that powers someone else's advancement. Your setbacks may serve as stepping stones for others, your pain a source of comfort. Your loss is a necessary ingredient in someone else's secret victory. In the silent economy of influence, not all outcomes are neutral. For every success, a shadow of failure is cast. And the world is full of silent saboteurs, forces, systems, sometimes even people, who benefit not despite your struggle, but because of it. Pause and look at the moments you faltered, the chances you missed, the dreams you abandoned. Did you ever stop to wonder who gained from your loss? Did you ever sense the faint, unsettling satisfaction radiating from those whose paths became clearer as yours narrowed? The silent saboteur rarely shows its face. It is not the overt enemy, not the obvious competitor, not the villain in plain sight. It is the parent who thrives on your dependence, the friend who grows more confident when you shrink, the workplace culture that advances those who conform by quietly sidelining the misfits. Sometimes it is a person, often it is a system, a structure engineered to convert one person's setbacks into another's advantage. You stumble and someone else's confidence blooms. You step back and a peer moves forward, seizing the opportunity left behind. You question, you hesitate, you falter, and suddenly the path you were meant to walk is occupied by another. Every ecosystem needs a balance of roles. But what if the balance is artificially maintained? What if certain dynamics are designed to create losers, to produce failures for the express purpose of fueling winners? In families, siblings jockey for parental approval, often unconsciously sabotaging each other's confidence to secure their own share of love. In organizations, resources are limited, and for every promotion won, someone must be passed over, their dreams quietly harvested to keep the machine moving. This is the law of the hidden economy. For every story of triumph, there is an unspoken story of defeat, often overlooked, often necessary. Not all advancement is innocent. Not all progress is clean. The most sinister aspect is that you may play both roles at different times. Today's victor can become tomorrow's casualty, and the wheel spins on, with everyone believing their station is the result of pure merit or blind fate. But behind the curtain, the silent saboteur moves pieces on the board, orchestrating outcomes, extracting value from every stumble and every tear. Consider the world of status and comparison. You are taught to measure yourself against others, to see every shortfall as a private shame. But status is not static. It feeds off hierarchy, requiring a constant supply of the less than, the not quite, the almost. In cultures that idolize competition, your failure is not only necessary, it is celebrated, as it makes someone else's victory sweeter, more complete, more deserved. Ask yourself with brutal honesty, who benefits when you second-guess yourself? Who grows stronger when you step back? Who feels safer when you doubt, hesitate, or simply disappear from the race? There are winners who owe everything to the sacrifices of those who failed. And there are systems that survive by ensuring that failure is never far from those who refuse to conform. Yet the sabotage is not always external. Sometimes the silent saboteur is internalized, a voice within that has absorbed the expectations and judgments of the world. A critic who whispers, "Don't try, don't stand out, don't make them uncomfortable." Every time you obey, you hand another piece of your potential to an invisible beneficiary. This is how networks of influence are maintained, by making your failure useful, by ensuring your pain powers the ambitions of the collective. You sense it at moments of vulnerability, when you confide a disappointment and notice a flash of relief or even joy in another's eyes, when you witness how quickly the world moves on from your setbacks, while your own sense of loss lingers, when you realize that your struggles have become cautionary tales, warnings that keep others safely within the lines. No one talks about this hidden exchange, yet it shapes every hierarchy, every relationship, every institution. You are trained to compete, to compare, to find your worth in a system where someone must always be below you. But what if you stopped playing? What if you refused to let your setbacks feed someone else's sense of superiority? What if you challenged the very notion that failure is a necessary fuel for someone else's triumph? Would the system collapse? Or would you finally see the silent saboteur for what it is, a parasite, an artifact of a reality you never agreed to maintain? Having recognized the cost of borrowed realities, you must now question, in the network of influence, are your losses secretly engineered, profitable to an unseen other? You may feel guilt for wanting more, for refusing to accept a place assigned by someone else's comfort. You may sense the resistance when you reach for your own dream, when your success threatens to topple the balance so carefully maintained. But the price of feeding the silent saboteur is too high. You owe nothing to the system that requires your suffering as fuel. This is the moment of reckoning. You are not required to fail so that others can win. You are not obligated to sacrifice your potential on the altar of someone else's safety. To reclaim your power, you must see every setback not as a loss, but as information, evidence that the system is rigged to convert your struggles into someone else's gain. Question every story of defeat, every narrative of scarcity, every myth of zero-sum existence. Who profits from your hesitation? Who benefits from your silence? Who grows when you shrink? The saboteur can only win if you remain unaware. Awareness is the first act of defiance, the first crack in the system's foundation. Now, having confronted the silent saboteur, there is a greater question that refuses to fade. If you cut the cords that bind you, do you risk losing everything you thought was yours? Can you escape the web without unraveling your own existence? If you cut the cords that bind you, do you risk losing everything you thought was yours? Can you escape the web without unraveling your own existence? Transition. Once you see the saboteur, can you truly walk away? Or does breaking free mean shattering the only reality you've ever known? If you cut the cords that bind you, do you risk losing everything you thought was yours? Can you escape the web without unraveling your own existence? The machinery of influence runs deep, deeper than most are willing to see. You have lived your whole life knotted to others, by bonds of family, culture, career, tradition, and invisible pacts. These threads feel like lifelines, but they can just as easily become snares. When the realization hits that your reality is woven from someone else's pattern, the urge to break free surges. But what happens if, in the act of untangling yourself, you pull apart the very fabric of your world? Disentanglement is seductive in theory and terrifying in practice. To unplug from borrowed realities, silent saboteurs, and energetic cross-wiring means questioning every point of connection. Nothing is sacred. No relationship, no value, no ambition escapes examination. And with each cord you threaten to cut, the anxiety grows. What will be left? Will anything remain? This is the paradox. Freedom demands loss. Authenticity requires destruction. The self you reclaim is not just the self that survived, but the self that dared to risk obliteration for a glimpse of truth. The first cords to cut are often the most obvious: obligations that drain you, connections that diminish you, rituals that hollow you out. You begin with small rejections, quiet acts of rebellion. You decline invitations, you withdraw from groupthink, you question inherited beliefs. The world responds with confusion, anger, guilt. You are told you are selfish, ungrateful, reckless. But beneath the resistance is a deeper, more subtle threat. If you leave, you might not survive. If you break away, you might not exist. Disentanglement threatens your sense of self because so much of it was built in relation to others. Every bond was a building block. Every echo reinforced your reflection. Pull away, and the structure shudders. This is why most people never truly escape. The price feels too high. The uncertainty is too vast. What if the world you create alone is too small, too quiet, too empty? Even the language of liberation is tinged with loss. Letting go, burning bridges, going it alone. The stories of those who disentangle are often framed as cautionary tales. The loner, the dropout, the exile. Yet, underneath, a deeper possibility stirs. What if the very thing you fear, emptiness, is the fertile ground where something real can finally take root? To unplug without destroying everything is nearly impossible because the cords are not just attachments, they are definitions. You are someone's child, someone's partner, someone's colleague. Remove these ties and who are you, really? A question with no easy answer, a void where a solid self once stood. In the pursuit of disentanglement, the ego trembles. It wants reassurance that it will survive, that it will be rewarded. But the journey is more like stepping into darkness, without a guide, without a guarantee. You begin to see that so much of what you called yours was never really chosen. The possessions, the roles, the routines, they crumble when scrutinized. Even memory is revealed as a collective act, curated and maintained by the stories you shared with others. Cutting the cords brings both terror and relief. With every thread severed, a new possibility flickers into view, but so does a new kind of loneliness. To be free, truly free, is to risk the loss of all familiar comforts. There is a grief to disentanglement, a mourning for the selves that will not survive the process. You are forced to face the ghosts of your own making, the personas crafted to fit into borrowed realities, to appease silent saboteurs, to power other people's dreams. At each stage, the temptation to return grows stronger. The old patterns beckon, promising safety, connection, belonging. You tell yourself, maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe I can live with the compromise. But you know too much now. The blueprint is exposed. The sabotage is clear. To stay is to shrink. To remain is to vanish. Disentanglement is an act of creation as much as it is an act of destruction. You destroy what no longer serves you so that you might discover what could. You begin to test the boundaries of your own autonomy. You make choices not as reactions but as expressions of self. You risk disappointing others, risk misunderstanding, risk being alone. And in each risk, a fragment of the original you reappears, tentative but real. But the web is not so easily left behind. There are always threads that resist being cut. Threads of love, loyalty, history. Do you sever these as well? Or do you try to weave new connections, built on honesty instead of obligation? Here, another paradox. Total isolation is not freedom. It is another form of captivity, another echo of borrowed realities, this time from the mythology of rugged individualism. The challenge, then, is to disentangle without destroying the capacity to connect. To unplug from what drains, while remaining open to what nourishes. To refuse to feed the saboteur, while still welcoming genuine partnership. Some bonds will not survive this process. Some relationships will fade. Some institutions will close their doors. Some dreams will dissolve. The pain is real. The grief is real. But so is the liberation. For the first time, you hear a voice that is not an echo, a thought that is not a borrowed loop, a desire that is not a reflection. It is faint at first, tentative, almost drowned out by the noise of the world you are leaving behind. This is the ground zero of creation, the blank canvas on which something true might finally be painted. But the risk remains. Can you escape the web without unraveling your own existence? The answer is unknown. No script, no blueprint, no guarantees. Only the relentless necessity of truth. Some will try to compromise, cutting a few cords, renegotiating old contracts, keeping one foot in borrowed realities. For a while, this may work. But the machinery is relentless, always pulling, always demanding full participation. True disentanglement requires courage, a willingness to lose in order to discover, to let go in order to find. To those who risk it, the reward is singular. A life that finally feels like yours. Not a sublet, not a role, not a shadow of someone else's vision. Once you see the saboteur, can you truly walk away? Or does breaking free mean shattering the only reality you've ever known? You will never know until you take the first step, and then another, and then another. You may stumble, you may fall, you may find yourself alone on a path with no markers. But the alternative is to remain forever tangled, forever compromised, forever half awake in a dream that is not your own. Disentanglement is a process, not a moment. It is the work of a lifetime, an endless questioning, an infinite series of small awakenings. The courage to unplug is the courage to risk everything for the chance at something real. Now you have begun to sever the threads, but now comes the ultimate test. If you strip away every external influence, what's left? Is there anything real beneath the noise, or is emptiness all that remains? If you strip away every external influence, what's left? Is there anything real beneath the noise, or is emptiness all that remains? Transition. You've begun to sever the threads, but now comes the ultimate test. Can you find a core identity that was never borrowed, never stolen? Or is authenticity just another illusion? If you strip away every external influence, what's left? Is there anything real beneath the noise, or is emptiness all that remains? The silence that follows disentanglement is unlike any you've known before. It is not the quiet of a restful mind, nor the peace of a fulfilled heart. It is a silence filled with the echoes of everything that used to define you. It is the quiet aftermath of a storm, where the debris of your old reality still litters the ground. For so long, you were someone's child, someone's partner, someone's employee, someone's friend. For so long, your beliefs were shaped by family dinners, school lessons, social feeds, the approving glances of strangers. Now, with the cords cut, the roles dropped, the noise turned off, what remains? You are face to face with the naked self. No audience, no applause, no expectations to fulfill, no status to protect, no narrative to obey. The blueprint that guided your life has been exposed as a copy of a copy. But now the page is blank, and the pen is trembling in your hand. This is not the clarity you imagined. It is not a rush of inspiration or a lightning bolt of self-realization. It is the slow, uneasy emergence of questions you've never allowed yourself to ask. Who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when there is no one left to please or impress or prove wrong? Who am I without a cause, without a tribe, without a script? You search for the authentic self, only to find that the concept itself is slippery, shape-shifting, possibly just another product of a culture obsessed with originality. You question every desire, every impulse, every flicker of ambition. Is this really mine, or is it just a fragment of something I absorbed along the way? The emptiness feels both terrifying and liberating. On one hand, there is the dread of meaninglessness. On the other, the unprecedented freedom to create a life that is truly yours, if only you can summon the courage to begin. The world you left behind still tugs at you. It whispers temptations. Come back to the fold. Pick up the old roles. Hide in the safety of borrowed dreams. But you know now that comfort comes at the cost of your soul. You know the noise is seductive, but every echo takes you further from the possibility of real fulfillment. This is the real test, enduring the void, resisting the urge to fill it with recycled noise, waiting for something true to take shape. You try on new identities like clothes in a store. You adopt a new belief, a new style, a new passion, only to find, again and again, that they don't fit. The emptiness remains. Friends and family may not understand. They see your solitude as a crisis, your questioning as a symptom of some deeper problem. They offer advice, reassurance, pathways back to the familiar. But you have already tasted the poison in comfort, already seen the rot at the core of conformity. You begin to realize that authenticity is not a state you arrive at. It is not a fixed point, a trophy, or an identity you can claim. It is a practice, a way of being that must be renegotiated moment by moment, breath by breath. To reclaim your blueprint is not to rediscover an old self, but to invent a new one. It is to become the author of your own story, no matter how uncertain the plot, no matter how unfinished the pages. You notice subtle shifts, a decision made because it feels right, not because it will earn approval. A boundary set not to punish, but to protect what is fragile and true. A moment of joy that arises, inexplicably, in the quiet between doubts. These are the first drafts of your new blueprint. Unpolished, uncertain, deeply imperfect, yet more real than anything you performed for the world outside. But the process is slow, often excruciating. The temptation to copy returns again and again. The urge to look for guidance, to seek out the next set of instructions, to lose yourself in another echo. You realize that you are not a finished product, but a work in perpetual progress. Your blueprint is written in erasable ink. It changes as you change, grows as you grow. Sometimes you are gripped by despair. You fear that there is nothing solid within, nothing original, nothing worthy of building upon. But even in this fear, there is the possibility of truth. A truth that can only be found by refusing to run back to the noise. You seek out silence not as an escape, but as a crucible. In that silence, uncomfortable feelings rise. Loneliness, uncertainty, vulnerability. You let them come. You let them teach you. Gradually, you begin to distinguish your own voice from the echoes. You learn to trust your instincts, to honor your needs, to respect your limits. You make choices that serve your growth, not someone else's agenda. This is reclamation, not a dramatic event, but an accumulation of small, honest acts. You may lose relationships. You may lose status. You may lose the approval of those who cannot understand why you refuse to play your old part. But you gain something far more precious, a sense of belonging to yourself, a sense of being at home in your own mind, your own body, your own life. No one can give you this. No one can do it for you. No one can promise that it will be easy, or even worth it in the conventional sense. But if you refuse to settle for the comfort of borrowed realities, if you are willing to withstand the emptiness, the loneliness, the silence, you may just catch a glimpse of something real, something that has waited, patient and unchanged, beneath all the layers of noise. You become the artist, the architect, the author of your experience. You discover that fulfillment comes not from the world's applause, but from the integrity of living in alignment with what is true for you, even if no one else ever sees or understands or cares. Can you find a core identity that was never borrowed, never stolen? Or is authenticity just another illusion? There will always be moments of doubt, moments when you long for the safety of the old noise, the comfort of a well-worn script. But each time you resist, each time you choose yourself, the new blueprint grows stronger. You are not immune to influence, not free from the tides of connection, but you are no longer hostage to them. You are no longer content to live as a shadow, as an echo, as a tenant in someone else's reality. And now, having begun to reclaim what was lost, you must confront a deeper paradox. If reality is just a shared hallucination, can you ever be sure your choices are your own? What if free will is the ultimate trick? If reality is just a shared hallucination, can you ever be sure your choices are your own? What if free will is the ultimate trick? Transition. After searching for your lost blueprint, the last layer of the paradox emerges. Is self-authorship even possible when every mind is networked, every reality co-created, and every wish is open source? If reality is just a shared hallucination, can you ever be sure your choices are your own? What if free will is the ultimate trick? Now the ground beneath your feet begins to blur, and everything you thought you understood about choice, desire, and authorship dissolves into fog. You have cut the cords, silenced the noise, reclaimed the scraps of your own blueprint. But as you step back and gaze at the wider landscape, an even deeper unease settles over you. Is this blank canvas ever really blank? Or is it, too, a program coded, calibrated, constructed by invisible hands? The world tells you that freedom is the power to choose. You are taught that decisions define you, that desire is sacred, will is sovereign, and every act of self-creation is proof that you are alive, unique, and awake. But how much of your freedom is genuine? How much of it is an elaborate illusion, a carefully maintained trick designed to keep you spinning in circles of endless choice that never truly escapes the code? Step back and examine the nature of reality itself. Is it solid, objective, fixed, or is it a consensus, a hallucination agreed upon by the majority, endlessly edited and reprogrammed by those with access to the source? Every culture, every tribe, every subculture builds its own layer of code. There are unwritten rules, shared values, mutual hallucinations that define what is possible, what is real, what is forbidden. And you, believing yourself to be free, operate within boundaries that were installed long before you ever asked the first question. You manifest, you create, you struggle to bend the universe to your will. But the universe, it turns out, is a network, a web of minds, a hive of dreams, a sea of invisible programs running in the background. Your wishes are not isolated. Your intentions are not independent. You are a node in a network, your signals shaped and reshaped by every other node you touch. So you ask, what is free will in a programmable world? If every thought, every feeling, every possibility is pre-coded by the systems you inhabit, what power do you really have? Are you a user or just another variable in someone else's program? Think of how quickly a meme spreads, how an idea explodes across the world, rewriting millions of minds in a matter of days. Think of how trends dictate taste, how groupthink shapes belief, how algorithms anticipate your next move before you are aware of it yourself. Are you making choices, or are you simply responding to inputs you cannot control, outputs you cannot predict? The more you search for the root of your will, the more you encounter paradox. Each desire traces back to an earlier influence, an unconscious imprint, a line of code running silently in the background. The feeling of agency is intoxicating, but is it anything more than a beautiful hallucination? Consider the ancient philosophers, the mystics, the neuroscientists, all wrestling with the same puzzle. Is consciousness a creator or merely an observer? Is the self a sovereign entity or a product of endless programming, the sum total of all the codes, all the influences, all the signals passed down through history? Your reality, you realize, is not just your own. It is a mashup, a remix, a constantly evolving script written by the combined intentions of billions. You can try to write your own chapter, but the page is crowded with the handwriting of everyone who came before you. Is it possible to break free from this web? Is there a place outside the code, a vantage point from which pure, untainted will can operate? Or is the idea of breaking free itself just another line in the program, another dream sold to you by the machinery of influence? Pause and sense the contradiction. You long to be unique, but you are shaped by the collective. You crave freedom, but you are bound by the code. You try to choose, but every choice feels like a response to a script you did not write. Maybe there is no outside. Maybe reality is a hall of mirrors with no original image, only reflections of reflections, codes looping back on themselves, never ending. Does this mean free will is an illusion? Does it mean you are forever trapped in a matrix of influences, your choices preselected, your destiny programmed? Or is there a hidden freedom in seeing the machinery, in recognizing the limits of the game? Perhaps self-authorship is not a destination, but a stance, a refusal to be purely reactive, a commitment to seek out the quiet places where your voice can be heard, even if it is only a whisper amid the noise. You learn to question every motive, every urge, every impulse. You refuse the first answer, the easy narrative, the obvious solution. You hold space for doubt, for paradox, for the possibility that even your deepest desires are not wholly your own. This is not despair, but a different kind of awakening. The awakening of the coder inside the code, the consciousness that can see its own programming. You begin to hack your own system. You test your limits. You challenge your assumptions. You edit your reality, not to escape the program, but to become a more creative user. You accept that there will always be layers you cannot see, codes you cannot rewrite, boundaries you cannot cross. But you also accept that within these limits you can shape the experience. You can remix the input, reinterpret the output, shift the perspective from which you perceive it all. The freedom you find is not absolute, but it is real enough. It is the freedom to play, to invent, to participate in the creation of reality, even as you know you are not its sole author. You become a conscious participant in the shared hallucination, a mindful coder in the open-source program of life. Is it enough? Is it satisfying to know you are never fully in control, never the only author? Or does the paradox only deepen, the tension only grow? After searching for your lost blueprint, the last layer of the paradox emerges. Is self-authorship even possible when every mind is networked, every reality co-created, and every wish is open source? You may never know. You may never find the pure, untouchable core of will you seek. But the search itself, the refusal to surrender to the program, is an act of creation. You keep rewriting. You keep questioning. You keep reaching for a freedom that may not exist in absolute terms, but feels more true than any borrowed certainty. And in that act, you are more real than you have ever been. Now you have stared down the paradox of free will in a programmable world. One question remains. If the power to manifest can be hijacked, what happens if you reject the script entirely? What's beyond manifesting? If you dare to break the system. If the power to manifest can be hijacked, what happens if you reject the script entirely? What's beyond manifesting? If you dare to break the system. Transition/final statement. Now that you've walked through the paradox, one question remains. Are you ready to burn the blueprint and build from zero? Or will you keep manifesting realities that never belong to you? The final choice isn't comfort. It's revolution. If the power to manifest can be hijacked, what happens if you reject the script entirely? What's beyond manifesting? If you dare to break the system. The journey through the shadow paradox has been a descent, a peeling away of certainties, a confrontation with the uncomfortable fact that your reality might not be your own. You've seen the phantom blueprints, the echo chambers, the mirrors that trap and shape you. You've felt the weight of borrowed realities, the chill of energetic theft, the strange emptiness that follows hollow victories. Every thread, every connection, every whisper of approval and judgment has been exposed as part of a much larger pattern. A program running just beneath the surface, shaping your desires before you even knew you had them. You've questioned the legitimacy of your ambitions. You've stared into the abyss of disentanglement, wondering what would remain if you stripped away every external influence, every inherited narrative, every recycled dream. And you've looked into the paradox of free will, realizing that even your deepest impulses might be echoes of a script you never agreed to perform. Now the question is not how to manifest more, how to visualize harder, or how to align with a universe that might be programmed to ignore you. The question is whether you are ready to throw the script into the fire and watch the old story burn. Manifesting is a form of participation in a shared hallucination. It is an act of sending signals, of tuning into channels, of weaving your wishes into the web of collective intention. But if the channels are hijacked, if the web is tangled, if your energy is cross-wired with dreams that never belong to you, what comes next? Maybe you stop manifesting. Maybe you stop bending reality with borrowed intent. Maybe, for the first time, you turn away from the feed, the program, the constant demand to shape yourself into a vessel for someone else's design. What does it mean to create, not manifest? To make something that has never existed before, not because it is desired or expected or profitable, but because it is real, it is yours, it is necessary. This is the revolution the system cannot process. Not a rebellion against authority, but a quiet refusal to play by the rules of the game. To stop manifesting is to step into the void, to accept that there is no ready-made blueprint, no guarantee of applause, no safety in numbers. You build from zero, you create from absence, you invite the risk of failure, obscurity, misunderstanding. But in this void, something impossible becomes possible. Genuine creation. A life that does not echo, that does not reflect, that does not loop. A life that is not a remix, a collage, a copy of copies, but a singular act of authorship. You begin by asking new questions, questions that disturb, questions that refuse to settle for the easy answer. What do I want when no one else is watching? What would I build if applause, status, and validation disappeared? What is left when the last program stops running and the screen goes dark? You notice that real creation is slow. It does not arrive in a rush of inspiration, but in the quiet persistence of attention, in the willingness to make mistakes, in the courage to be misunderstood. You stop seeking signs from the universe and start taking responsibility for every line you draw, every word you write, every action you perform. There is no algorithm to optimize for this. No hack, no shortcut, no influencer to imitate. This is the opposite of viral. It is the painstaking work of making something from nothing, of defining yourself on your own terms, of accepting that the result may never be recognized, celebrated, or even seen. The world does not reward creators right away. It may punish you. It may ignore you. It may mock you for not playing the game, for refusing to rent space in the reality it offers. But the reward is different, deeper, more enduring. It is the knowledge that what you have made, what you have lived, what you have become is yours, unborrowed, unreplicated, uncompromised. You become fluent in your own language. You develop tastes that are not dictated by trends. You form beliefs that do not require consensus to survive. The journey of true creation is lonely at first, then exhilarating, then peaceful. You discover that you need less than you thought, that fulfillment grows in the cracks left behind when false ambition is stripped away. Real creation is not about achievement, but about alignment. Not about building a bigger castle, but about living in a way that feels right, regardless of how it looks to others. You see the world with new eyes. You notice the systems still running, the phantom blueprints, the echo chambers, the mirror games, but you are no longer their captive. You can interact, but you do not conform. You can witness, but you do not loop. You can love, but you do not disappear. Some will call you selfish. Some will call you lost. Some will call you dangerous. But you know the truth now. To create is to refuse the shadow paradox. To live as a glitch in the program, a breach in the loop, a singularity in the system. What happens when you stop manifesting and start creating? The world resists. The machinery grinds. The voices of doubt rise up. But you keep building. You keep choosing. You keep rewriting the code. Now that you've walked through the paradox, one question remains. Are you ready to burn the blueprint and build from zero? Or will you keep manifesting realities that never belong to you? The final choice isn't comfort. It's revolution. You stand at the edge, blueprint in one hand, match in the other. This is the moment of truth, the only question worth answering. Whose dream are you really living? Whose reality will you create? now that the shadows have been exposed. You may never find certainty, but you have found agency. You may never find approval, but you have found your voice. You may never escape the paradox, but you have become the author of your own glitch in the world's endless program. The revolution begins not with a shout, but with a whisper. No more shadows, no more borrowed dreams, no more reality on someone else's terms. Step out. Start from zero. Create what only you can create. Are you ready to burn the blueprint and build from zero? Or will you keep manifesting realities that never belong to you? The final choice isn't comfort. It's revolution. Final transition/statement. No comfort. No tidy endings. Only the raw, unresolved power of a question that changes everything. Are you ready to burn the blueprint and build from zero? Or will you keep manifesting realities that never belong to you? The final choice isn't comfort. It's revolution. The journey through the shadow paradox has brought you to the threshold, a place few ever truly reach, and even fewer dare to cross. All the illusions have been stripped away. The familiar scripts lie in ashes at your feet. You see the machinery behind every desire, the programming beneath every dream, the faint fingerprints of others on every wish you ever held close. And now you face a question that has no guide, no precedent, no guarantee of reward. The blueprint you have carried for so long is more than a map. It is a comfort, a promise, a history of everything you thought you were supposed to become. It is the weight you bore when the world demanded answers. It is the armor you wore when uncertainty felt too dangerous. But you see it now for what it is. A beautiful prison, a shadow that always keeps you one step from the light. Burning the blueprint is not a metaphor. It is a choice as real as any you will ever make. It is the moment you refuse to accept inherited purpose, the second you decide that no old code, no recycled story, no phantom author has authority over your future. It is the risk that everything you believed was you will vanish in the flames, leaving only raw, unresolved possibility. This is not a path of comfort. It is a path of rupture, a leap into the unknown, unshielded by tradition, untethered from expectation, unrewarded by applause. It is the terror of groundlessness, the exquisite vulnerability of authorship, the agony and joy of creation without a script. There will be voices urging you to turn back, voices promising that it is safer to walk the well-lit road, to stay within the lines, to trade sovereignty for belonging. There will be moments when you are tempted to gather up the ashes, to reconstruct the ruins of old certainty, to settle for borrowed purpose one last time. But you know, in the marrow of your being, that what waits on the other side is more real, more alive, more necessary than any comfort ever offered by the old world. To burn the blueprint is to give up the hope that anyone else can tell you who you are. It is the surrender of safety for the promise of truth. It is the willingness to be misunderstood, to be alone, to risk failure for the sake of creation. Nothing about this is easy. Nothing about this is guaranteed. The world is designed to make you hesitate, to make you doubt, to make you question whether your unique voice has any place in the great cacophony of borrowed dreams. But revolution is never comfortable. It does not wait for permission, does not beg for understanding, does not soften its impact for the sake of fragile certainty. You may lose more than you gain. You may discover that some relationships cannot survive the fire. You may find yourself a stranger in your own community, a wanderer in a landscape that no longer recognizes you. But every moment of pain, every pang of loneliness, every loss is the price of realness, the cost of becoming more than a shadow in someone else's reality. You stand before the blank space where your next reality could be built. You feel the tremor of fear, the rush of anticipation, the giddy weightlessness of freedom. No script, no blueprint, no map but the compass that trembles in your chest. Creation is never safe. It is always a wager, but it is the only wager worth making. You remember the echoes, the loops, the mirrors, the cages. You remember the taste of hollow victories, the price of paying rent in borrowed realities, the ache of seeing your energy siphoned to fuel dreams that never belonged to you. All of that is gone. All that remains is the possibility of a new story, A new language, a new world, one written line by trembling line, not for validation, not for applause, but because the act of creation is the only true act left. There are no mentors here, no authorities, no secret wisdom waiting to be unlocked. Only you and the question that demands an answer. Will you burn the blueprint? Will you risk the loneliness, the silence, the void, trusting that in the space you clear, something real will finally have room to breathe? Or will you gather up the fragments of the old script, glue them back together, and slip once more into the comfort of shadows, knowing that the price is your own becoming? The final paradox. There is no right answer. There is only the choice, and the courage to live with it. Revolution is never about certainty. It is about risking the unknown over and over for the sake of a single moment of authenticity. So the question waits for you. It will not fade, will not quiet, will not let you sleep. It is the question that splits reality, the question that redraws the boundaries of what is possible, the question that marks the end of the shadow paradox and the beginning of something new. Are you ready? Will you burn the blueprint? Will you start from zero, with nothing but your own imperfect hands, your own unfinished voice, your own unruly hope? No comfort, no tidy endings, only the raw, unresolved power of a question that changes everything. The revolution is yours. The blueprint is in your hands. The fire is waiting. This is not the end. This is the point where everything real begins.